My tears would not cease to conclude. Pause. Have you ever wanted to read a book that was a combination between Avatar: The Last Airbender, Fruits Basket, and Rosario Vampire? Me neither. My name is Rory, and I'm on a quest to become a New York Times bestselling author. This is not the first time in my life that I thought I was going to be a New York Times bestselling author, because I thought I was going to be a famous author when I was 13. This was around like 2012, peak emo culture. Peak. I had just discovered what anime was like yesterday. I was actively wearing Attack on Titan jackets to school. Oh no! I thought black eyeliner and black eyeshadow were the exact same thing. I had the fucking swoop bang, okay? You get the picture? You see what we're working with here? I was also incredibly traumatized and depressed, and I wanted to make that everybody else's problem. So as you can imagine, I was cringe really bad. And I know you're like, well, Rory, everybody's cringe in middle school. No. You don't get it. I genuinely think that, like, the Black Parade played behind me when I walked through the halls like some sort of fucking siren call. Generally, kids like that got bullied. I don't know if it's the same thing now as, like, when I was in middle school, but back then, if you were fucking weird, you had to band together with the other weird kids if you didn't want to get your ass kicked. Coincidentally, most of the other cringe emo kids were in Creative Writing Club. That was where I ended up writing my very first novel. I'm using the term novel, like, really loosely, okay? I don't even know if I'd go so far as to call this a story. Because in looking this over, I'm kind of realizing that this was just like some really long vent art collection of sorts. I had a really rough time growing up, and this was the age where I kind of started to realize that other kids didn't have the same upbringing that I had, and I was getting kind of pissed about it. So most of this book was kind of just my vent character that I made, that I was like, this isn't me, but it was like definitely me, and like him like crying and talking about how miserable he was and like having like constant like nervous breakdown. I would basically just write like really detailed scenes of like traumatic events, and then the characters would just kind of like go to bed, and that would be the chapter. I should have put this shit on Wattpad. If I had a Wattpad at this age, I would have posted this, because when I tell you I thought I was cooking, I thought that the agents were gonna bust my door down, that this was peak, okay? The part of this that is most upsetting to me personally is that I was so proud of this. I was so proud of it that I would actually email parts of this. I would email pieces of this to my English teacher at the time on yahoo.com. Imagine you're a 27-year-old man and you just started teaching 8th grade, and this fucking weird-ass kid that will not leave you alone and wears Attack on Titan cosplays to school and fucking eats lunch in your room because they don't want to get their ass kicked, like hanging out there after school at the fucking Creative Writing Club because they didn't want to go back home, starts emailing you chapters from their book, and then they come up to your desk the next day at school like, huh? Was it good? So luckily for the sake of people watching this, most of this novel was lost to cyberspace. Unfortunately, I did recover 4 chapters, and these are the chapters that I consider to be the absolute best, the cream of the crop, because these are the ones I sent to people, okay? I'm kind of using those 4 chapters to figure out, like, what the hell the plot of this was, which, I mean, in my defense, I don't think I knew when I was writing it either. So the title was Paper Flowers, which I took from the Evanescence song Imaginary. This was the cover art that I drew. Oh no! For when the agents came busting down my doors, I was gonna be like, don't worry, I already drew the cover. I actually showed this at my 8th grade, like, capstone project. We had to, like, do a project where we talked about what we wanted to do in the future, and I was like, I want to be an author! And I showed them this picture, and they literally laughed out loud. Also, just because I think it's worth mentioning, in these 4 chapters that I wrote, I used 395 exclamation points. I used the find feature on Google Docs, and I used nearly 400. That's 100 exclamation points a chapter, but it gets worse because I also used 113 interrobangs. If you don't know what an interrobang is, it's the exclamation point and the question mark. Generally a sign of poor writing. I used that 113 times. In addition, that's separate from the 400 exclamation points that I used. in 4 chapters, okay? Just so we're on the same page with that. But let me try to explain the plot to you really quick. General warning for just tasteless handling of trauma and, like, probably bad 13-year-old takes and opinions. So, the plot line, I have my laptop here, so don't worry. This is authentic. The plot line was that some evil man caused the 4 elements of the universe to, like, be broken up into 4 separate spirits that possessed 4 teenagers. And it's up to one lonely, misunderstood, brown-haired girl who goes to high school to try and bring them all together. But the actual story wasn't really any of that. It was kind of just them, like, wandering around and, like, going to high school and, like, being domestic. I don't know how it made sense that some random girl was gonna find all 4 of these strangers that allegedly could be anywhere in the whole world. They were all down the street from her. So, like, the general plot line, I think, was that there was this, like crazy man, and he wanted to take over the world, and he, like, wandered around in a back alley until he found, like, some random wizard to solicit, and he, like, went up to the wizard and was like, I want all the power in the whole wide world, and the wizard was like, okay, I'll give that to you, but I'm gonna make it like a game. Because I'm a wizard. So I'm just gonna give it a fun little twist. So the wizard that this man found in a back alley, he extracted the 4 elements of the universe. You know, like earth, water, fire, air. You saw Avatar. It's infinitely better than whatever the fuck I'm talking about right now. He extracted those elements, and then he tossed them into the world, and he put them into 4 random infants. And he was like, okay, you have some power, but if you want all the power, like, of all the elements in the whole world, you have to find these 4 random kids, and you have to kick their ass before they turn 18. No idea why 18 years old was the cutoff for this. I guess I was just 13 when I wrote this, and I was like, damn, when you're 18, your fucking life is over, huh? I also just want to mention that this man couldn't find these kids for 18 years, but my protagonist found them all within the span of 1 semester in high school. They all lived down the street from her. How convenient was that? Let's meet our protagonist, shall we? This is Emmy Haymore.
Oh no!
This is the actual real picture that I used when I wrote this, too. She is dumb, clueless, and very quickly homeless because as the story begins, both of her parents croak immediately. Luckily, though, she goes to a boarding school, high school, so she could just move right on in there. Not for long, though, because in chapter 2, her school burns to the ground. But by chapter 3, she has wandered through a forest and found a random home, and she just moved herself right in. So that wasn't a big conflict for a very long time. Okay, so now that you're caught up and you know what you're getting into, let me crack open this book for you, and let me start out with chapter 1. Don't worry, it's 1 page. I also titled it OVA. Which was fucking stupid. I guess I thought that meant, like, prologue, but like I said, I was a weeb, I was watching a lot of anime, so I don't really know how to edit, but I'm gonna try and put it, like, on the screen so that you guys can also see this, because it loses a little bit of its, charm if you can't see how I spelled some words. I left this untouched from when I was 13, and I have not read it since I extracted it from yahoo.com, so I really want you guys to see how I spelled some of these words, because I'm seeing a lot of red squiggly lines, okay? Okay, here we go. My tears would not cease to conclude. Pause. Can I make, like, a tap out word? Because this is already too much. My tears would not cease to conclude if my life depended on it. I was so desperately confused. 1 minute, he held me in his arms, only to breathe his last breath far too soon. The rain was freezing, as was my relinquishing cognition that my father wasn't gone yet. I clearly Googled, like, smart ways to say memory, and went with, what was it? Relinquishing cognition. Okay. Right, okay. That's artistic. I'm a tortured poet, remember? He couldn't be gone. The times, comma, all the memories I would spend with him, even if was sick most of the time. I guess he was sick, I don't know. I didn't feel the need to specify. This just didn't seem fair. I placed my head on the wet ground, trying to think as my hair stuck to my forehead. Mommy, Why? Why must death exist? This is a 6-year-old girl. I'm pretty sure I made her like 6 years old in this scene. She's like a child. What child do you know that doubles over in a graveyard and goes, "Mommy, why? Why does death exist? To take away people we love and cared for, only to cause suffrage like this." Suffrage. I wrote suffrage. You know, like women's suffrage. Okay, this is what I was talking about with I need you to see how I spelled some of these words, because this is gold. Okay. This accomplishes nothing. What a natural dialogue sentence for a 6-year-old girl to have. That was awesome. My mother looked up from her mournful stare at the grave of my father to gently wipe her tears from her face enough to convince me it was only the rain that had caused her the streams of water down her delicate skin. Honey, I know that it must be hard to understand at your age, but you just need to— No! No, I can't! I mean, why? Daddy did nothing wrong, so how come people leave us so easily? Was it me? Did I do something wrong, Mommy? I thought I was toying with my audience there. I was like, oh, this is really gonna get him. This is gonna be a tearjerker. I choked on my tears and shallow sobs as I continued to try and conclude the reason people leave us. I promise I won't do anything bad ever again. Just please bring him back. My mother's eyes began to tear again as she slowly made her way over to me and draped her arms around me, as a loving mother should. That was pointed. As a loving mother should. Damn. Emmy, sweetie, I know that it's awfully hard to understand right now. It clearly isn't, because this girl just asked about my relinquishing cognition and asked why people are taken from us so soon. I think she's very intelligent for her age, clearly. You're still so young, but sometimes awful, wicked things happen to people who have done nothing to deserve it. We can't do anything to stop it, though. Death, in itself, is wicked. It's very dramatic. But again, I mean, they are like planking across this man's grave, like sobbing, so I guess the drama fits. But we can't do anything about that. Just know that God is going to take Daddy and give him a better place than he could ever have. I thought about God for a second. How could he just take away someone I loved so much? I was raised to love and believe in him, however, so I probably shouldn't doubt it. Not the Catholic guilt. I was raised Catholic. I'm not anymore, clearly. But this was really funny. Because I remember when I was younger, I would, like, ask questions, like, in Bible study and shit. And they would just be like, why are you asking so many questions? You don't trust God? And I was like, oh. My mother starred at her husband's grave for a while before completely breaking down again, without omission. Even if I was falling apart between my emotions and confusion on the inside, I had to do something. I looked around for something to do, or something to stop my mother from sobbing so hard. I saw, through the corner of my eye, a small rose bush on the grassy, muddy hill we sat, about a small walk from my house. What the hell does that mean? That was the most confusing sentence I've ever read. What? I gently stood and crookedly walked over, like I'm on a boat or something, to pick 5 long stem roses from the wet, dew-dropped bush, pricking my hand in the process. It stung in the cold, wet air. Okay, can I just draw really quick attention to how many fucking spaces I would put in between the period and the start of the sentence? Because that fucking area has its own zip code. It's so damn far apart. Okay, whatever. It stung in the cold, wet air as I slowly trudged back to my mother to smile slightly and drop to my knees, and I handed them to her. Didn't Daddy give you these when you were sad? I asked with a genuine smile. As I saw her eyes close on the red flowers, though it confused me slightly why she still continued to cry after she took the roses, but I was still contemplating a small idea that rendered within me. Should I call Harvard and just let them know that I was a genius? I don't know how I didn't graduate years early with the shit that I wrote. What the fuck was I saying? Hang on, I need to reread that sentence again. This is such a long sentence, I don't even know where to pick it back up. But I was still contemplating a small idea that rendered within me. Rendered? What the hell? Mother, I asked, ultimately ignoring her, trying to act as if she wasn't crying. She's been crying for a long time. I don't know why I feel the need to keep mentioning the fact that she's crying. We got it. But, alright. Yes, sweetie, she said, dabbing her red-rimmed eyes with a small tissue she took out from her purse. Will you promise me something? I already see where this shit's going. This kid's gonna be like, please tell me that you won't die and leave me alone. And then her mom's gonna be like, I promise, honey, and then she's gonna fucking croak. Yeah, I see this. I thought I was so slick. I saw a small hint of doubt cross her as she hid it away, smiling again. Of course. Promise me that you won't ever leave me like Daddy. Don't ever leave my side, okay? I had held out my pinky finger for her to pinky swear with me. Okay, I do the pinky swear shit in my novel that I'm writing right now, but I swear it's not this emo. It's not like on a grave, okay? I remember my mom covering her mouth to hide her muffled sobs again, most likely crying of my innocence. I was only 7 after all. See? I knew she was like fucking like 6 or 7 or something, but I was quite pristine. She wrapped her finger around mine, accentuating the size difference. Promise. Good. I smiled as she embraced me once again. I had to snap myself back again. Back to reality. The uncontrollable events and foreseeable actions that all happened in the real world. What the hell does that mean? The uncontrollable events and foreseeable actions that all happened in the real world. What? I walked forward to where my mother's grave stood, next to my father's. You know I thought, I was hoping my readers were like, like clutching their fucking pearls at this. I was now completely alone. I remember feeling sick as I slowly continued my walking, as the roses stung my hand. I lay down and slowly curled on my mother's grave, placing the roses next to me, as I placed my pinky finger on my mother's tomb. Oh, for God's sake. You promised. I choked as my throat caught. I guess you lied. Damn. Are you crying yet? Let me know in the comments. Are you hysterical? Well, that was chapter 1 of Paper Flowers. Actually, that was the OVA. I forgot. My bad. Hopefully you didn't go clinically insane during that. And if you managed to make it to the end in one piece, let me know if you want me to read chapter 3. Not chapter 2. I actually skipped writing that one entirely. Because nothing really important happened in that chapter. All that happened was Emmy's school fucking burned to the ground. She lost all of her possessions and all of her belongings. She ran 7 miles in a forest for however long it took her to find a big abandoned house that she promptly moved herself right into. And we're gonna pick up with her living in this house and exploring it. Bye!